vote in the full House did get done late last night. The breakthrough, writes Time, came after a frenzied late-night negotiation that yielded just enough concessions to bring key GOP holdouts on the House Rules Committee back on board, despite deep divisions over the bill's cost and proposed changes to Medicaid. In the end, all but one Republican voted the bill out of committee, and that would have been Chip Roy out of Texas, who skipped the vote, ending the committee's debate that began 22 hours earlier. So at about 2:30 this morning, so 3.5 hours ago, Speaker Mike Johnson moved one step closer to that goal, with the House passing a procedural resolution 217 to 212 to set up a floor vote on this reconciliation bill today. So this thing still has a ways to go, but it's getting closer. Is it perfect? No, it's not. Thomas Massie out of Kentucky, he's a solid conservative. He's a guy who does not want to see wasteful spending. Thomas Massie addressed the floor during the debate on the procedural resolution, and he said, "We're not rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic tonight. We're putting coal in the boiler and setting a course for the iceberg. If something is beautiful, you don't do it after midnight." That's a great line. That's a great line from Thomas Massie. Now, I'm not sitting here letting perfect be and try to shoot for the perfect bill. I don't want to let perfect get in the way of a very good bill, but I'm not even convinced this is all that good. Yes, we got to extend those tax cuts from 2017. There's no doubt about it. But do we want to put ourselves here in a situation where suddenly you've got to now figure out whether or not you can do anything about this $36 trillion in debt? That does not sound like the play going forward. So that's not what I want to see. But there are some things in this bill that you may not like all that much. But you tell me. And, look at this. I just have this update 4 minutes ago from CNN that the House has passed Trump's bill. Breaking news right as we start the show here, 215 to 214. One vote on the big, beautiful bill after it got through the Rules Committee late last night, early this morning. So looking at this right now in real time on CNN, they posted this 4 minutes ago. I got on the air 3 minutes ago. So this is all happening right now in real time, that this bill has in fact passed. And now, of course, it moves on over to the Senate. And that doesn't mean it's a done deal. The Senate's going to do what the Senate's going to do to this bill. And then it could very well end up coming back to the House, because the Senate is going to want to put its mark on this thing. But CNN just posting this here in the last 4 minutes on their website. House passes Trump's sweeping domestic policy bill after GOP leaders win over key holdouts. So that just breaking here in the last few minutes. And we'll see now where it goes from here. But that's a big win for Trump. He does not have a big margin in the House of Representatives. It's only about 3 votes. And you have the blue state Republicans in New York who wanted this SALT tax deduction to return. That's basically where these blue state Republicans can allow their districts, their constituents, to deduct state and local taxes from their federal income taxes. That's a big deal in some of these high tax blue states. And then also you have the Republican fiscal hawks who are like, guys, this really doesn't do a whole lot when it comes to cutting and chipping away at this $36 trillion in debt. In fact, many of them argue that it doesn't do anything good on that front. After a lot of talk about DOGE and, trending towards and dreaming about a balanced budget, this does none of that. So still, Trump got this thing done. And Speaker Mike Johnson, listen, I don't know what Speaker Mike Johnson's legacy is going to be when all is said and done. But for a guy who was like 4th on the pecking order when all that stuff went down last year with Kevin McCarthy, he's actually done a pretty damn good job, John.
I know everybody has different goals on what they want to accomplish, But my measurement is the Dems are screaming and squealing. So is that enough, or are they going to do that anyway?
They're going to do that anyway. But, I like to watch them squeal and
Right.
squirm.
There's an entertainment factor to all this.
Oh, I love that part of it. I'm sure Cleaver will have some new tweets up this morning that we'll have to play out.
You mustard moo.
We'll have to get Cleaver's hot take whenever it does come down, now that it has passed through the House earlier this morning. So, good question, but we'll have to see how it plays out. In the meantime, breaking news late last night, a pro-Palestinian man is in custody after allegedly killing 2 Israeli embassy staff members who were leaving an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. The Embassy of Israel to the U.S. identified the victims, who were set to be engaged: Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram. Metropolitan Police Department Chief Pamela Smith said during a news conference last night that the officers responded to multiple calls of a shooting near the museum at about 9 p.m. Eastern time last night. And when authorities arrived at the scene, a man and a woman were found unconscious and not breathing. Both were then pronounced dead. A 30-year-old man identified as Elias Rodriguez of Chicago is believed to have committed the act alone, and he is in custody, adding that his gun was also recovered. Now, this guy, as he gets arrested last night, take a listen to what he sounded like.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Yeah, sounded like a regular rally on Harvard's campus or Columbia's campus, is what it sounded like. According to the Metropolitan Police Department, the preliminary investigation shows Rodriguez was allegedly observed pacing back and forth outside the museum before he approached a group of 4 people exiting the building, including the 2 victims, and began shooting. He then entered the museum, where he was detained by event security, and then, of course, while in custody, he was doing his dopey little chant. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser described the shooting as horrific and assured the community there is no active threat. She also said the city will not tolerate this violence or hate. Okay, well, that's great, but let's make sure that she puts her money where her mouth is. Because right now, when it comes to violence, when it comes to groups being targeted, you have seen this uptick in anti-Semitic attacks against Jews since October 7th. You have seen it since the October 7th attacks. And if the media really wanted to lean into this thing a little more, they could bring you some of the data that they frankly should be bringing you on some of the anti-Semitism that has increased around the country over the last year and a half or so. I'm not convinced that they are going to do that, though. Hey, Mark, Steve Scalise, House Majority Leader, is speaking right now on Capitol Hill. Can we pop that up on Fox News?
The American dream that we knew should not be permanent, but was only going to turn around if we passed a bill to get America back on track. We knew we had to prevent a massive tax increase, so we put it in the bill. We knew we needed to secure America's border, as President Trump ran on all across this country and won the election on, and we put it in this bill. We ran on and said we would produce more American energy, and we put it in this bill. All the things that we knew we needed to do to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in government. Focus on those families who are struggling. All of that is in this one big, beautiful bill. And yes, now the House has come together and passed this bill against all odds, but we're still working on the rest of the process. It still goes to the Senate. The Senate has a lot of work to do, too. That's why we've been talking to the Senate for a long time, but it's their turn to take this bill and move forward. But I'll tell you, none of this would be possible without the leadership of President Trump, who every step of the way not only laid out the vision, ran a campaign on this vision, but every step of the way, too, said, whatever you need, let me know. And he was there to help us. Our great speaker, Mike Johnson, who was never deterred, probably hasn't slept in a few days, but never wavered in his commitment to get this done. And this whole team has come together. And our whip has never relented and never stopped pushing to get this done. With that, I bring up our great majority whip, Tom Emmer.
All right. There you go. That was Steve Scalise, House Majority Leader, in real time. This press conference happening on Capitol Hill. GOP leaders are speaking after passing the president's big, beautiful bill. It now will go over to the Senate side. And with that, I'm sure it will get sliced and diced and then have to come back over to the House. So this is not something you heard Tracy Mann say yesterday. He's a member of the House of Representatives, Western Kansas, 1st District. But that district does now include Lawrence in our listening area. So it's good to get him on the show when he can make it. But he noted yesterday that the timeline for this could be the end of the summer. By the time they go back and forth, Senate does its thing, goes back to the House, may have to go back to the Senate. You may be looking at ultimately the fall when this thing is finally passed. But as long as they get it done, not that I want them to take any longer than they need to, but as long as they get this thing done by the end of the year, that's really the ultimate deadline, because the 2017 Trump tax cuts, which were huge tax cuts for the American people and for corporations, which really sparked great economic growth from 2017 up until COVID hit, you got to lock those tax extensions in. And that is obviously a critical part of why they want this bill to get done as quickly as possible. 913-408-7957 as we start the show with breaking news here on KCMO Talk Radio. A lot happening as we get it rolling on a Thursday morning on 95.7 FM. Coming up, Dayton Moore is going to be here at 8:35 this morning. The former Royals team president. He's got a big event happening in town. And, he might run for governor in Kansas. So we'll find out about that and much more coming up at 8:30. Do not miss it on 95.7 FM, streaming on the KCMO. Next, World Cup coming to Kansas City, of course. What is the chit-chat from the local chambers? Are they overhyping this thing? Are they going to let us down? We'll explain. Coming up next.
It's Mundo in the Morning. Now on FM at 95.7. Set a preset on your radio. KCMO Talk Radio.
Just reached out to our buddy Mark Alford, congressman in Missouri, see if we can get him on this morning with the big, beautiful bill slipping through the House of Representatives in the early morning hours right before we got on the air here on KCMO, 2:15 to 2:14. Literally cannot get a closer vote than that. Now it goes over to the Senate side. So as soon as we get a hold of Mark, we will try to get him on KCMO Talk Radio.
He was the deciding vote.
Yeah, well, everyone can call themselves.
Yeah.
That's a great line. Every congressman should go on his hometown radio station and call himself or herself, yes, the deciding vote in the House of Representatives. Here he is, Mark Alford on KCMO Talk Radio. That's right.
Such a nice man.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we can get a hold of Mark. Hopefully he didn't fall asleep yet. Oh, no, he just texted me back, so we'll get him on soon. Okay, World Cup 2026 ramping up, right? Less than 13 months away. There is a push to get businesses in the region ready. But there also is a tentative and a hesitant approach by many in the business community. Why? Because they feel like they got burned during the NFL draft. And they did get burned during the NFL draft. The NFL draft was mostly Kansas City people going down to World War I and Union Station and taking in a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And it was awesome. Now, the World Cup is going to be better than that when it comes to outside interest, when it comes to outside travel coming to Kansas City. Is it going to reach the numbers of 650,000 visitors over that several-week span who will spend $650 million in our town, according to Visit KC? I'm not sure if I'm buying that. That just sounds like a massive number. Frankly, now I know that these people will be spread out over several weeks. But still, that is basically, 25 to 30% of our entire metropolitan population showing up over a few weeks for the World Cup. That would make this place like Chicago or New York City when it comes to gridlock around here, if that does actually end up happening. So those seem like very aggressive numbers that I don't buy. That's just me. I just don't believe it. Not that it's not going to be a lot of people, but 650,000 people coming to Kansas City, yes, spread out over several weeks. That's an enormous number that I don't buy it. And I don't know where Visit KC is getting its numbers from. I'd like to know. I'll reach out to them today and try to find out. But I'm just sitting here and saying to myself, $650 million with 650,000 visitors, that's a high bar. So yesterday there was an Olathe Chamber of Commerce business luncheon that was focused on World Cup readiness. And dozens of Olathe business owners heard a panel discussion with two KC 2026 representatives. And they talked about these numbers from Visit KC. And they bragged about how we've got 40 days of the tournament. We got base camps here. We're talking about, in their words, 6 different major events that are almost on the scale of the Super Bowl. More than 1,400 regional businesses have already filled out the KC 2026 Business Interest Form, an online tool that will help keep businesses in the loop about World Cup connected business opportunities. This feels like it is set up for these businesses to be let down. I don't want them to be let down. I really don't. But this is just setting up to me to develop into a situation where the chamber groups are hyping up these local business owners. Oh, you're going to do great. Oh, my goodness, the money's going to be flowing. You just wait till summer of 26. And then it turns out to be a trickle. And then everybody's going to throw their hands up and say, oh, I didn't see any major bump from the World Cup. Did you? No, me neither. Oh, this is not me saying I don't want the World Cup. I think it's great. I think it'll be really cool for Kansas City. But I'm fearful that it's being overhyped by these chamber folks. You had one quote here from one of the speakers yesterday saying, I think what's coming is on a world scale we haven't seen yet. But once we understand what's actually coming and we prepare the business, it'll help them flourish. How can you guarantee that? How can you possibly guarantee that we're going to be in a situation where you're going to see businesses thrive at this level because of the World Cup? I mean, is a random business on 135th and Black Bob just suddenly going to explode during the World Cup? I hope it does. But I'm not convinced of that. And I want that to happen. Just to be very clear, I want that to happen. I just have to see it to believe it. Coming up, is he good? Are we going to be able to get Mark on here? All right, we're going to get Mark Alford here on the show in a few minutes after the big, beautiful bill passed. Missouri Congressman Mark Alford next.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Pete Mundo.
They shook it up on the House floor. They got it done, 215 to 214, passing what the President of the United States has dubbed the Big, Beautiful Bill. That happened right before we got on the air this morning, prior to 6 o'clock Central Time. And now we get the reaction from one of our own. Missouri Congressman Mark Alford is here on KCMO Talk Radio. So, Congressman, can we call you the deciding vote in this one with a one-vote win?
Well, sure. I'll take the win on that. Look, even if we win by one vote, it is still a victory. This is a victory for the American people. I knew that this was going to pass. I've been telling everyone it's going to pass. The momentum was in our favor. We got a few things worked out. Some for the Freedom Caucus, who wanted the eligibility requirements to kick in sooner for Medicaid, which I was fighting for as well. We got that down from 2029 to 2026. And we also satisfied the SALT issue with those members in New York, California, Illinois, raising the deduction amount to $40,000 from $10,000 from where it is now. But look, Pete, this is a huge, huge win for America. I've been telling you about this. This is going to skyrocket business and our economy. Business and our economy. We have been a slingshot that has been pulled back. It's about to release. And I predict in the third and fourth quarter of this year, you're going to see a record economy for America. The bond markets are responding. The stock market will respond. Our businesses will be safe and secure. We will not experience the largest tax increase in U.S. history. And what was at stake had we not passed this.
Okay, so you mentioned the work requirements. Basically, we got to figure out a way to get able-bodied Americans, especially men, back into the workforce. So
exactly.
that was something that you guys moved. I don't even know, why was it at 2029 in the first place? Why didn't we start at 2026?
I asked that, and the leadership said, well, the governors need time to get their processes in place. And I'm like, come on now, that's BS. There was some other reason they weren't telling us, but they gave in. I talked to Speaker Mike Johnson about this and others. Look, the same thing with the SNAP program, food stamp program. You know, if you're able-bodied and you're not out looking for a job and you don't have dependents, you shouldn't be on a food supplement program from the federal government. You should be out working. And we're going to make sure that those people who truly need SNAP assistance and those who truly need Medicaid are going to get it. But we've got to preserve these programs, and the way we do it is getting rid of the waste, abuse, and fraud. The Democrats, the left, the progressive woke side of our nation have been lying to the American people through this whole process that we are cutting Medicaid. We are not cutting Medicaid.
So I know that there was also some consternation with many conservatives, a handful of conservatives. Thomas Massey actually posting this on social media here a few minutes ago, and basically saying this is an omnibus bill that essentially many Republicans fought against for a lot of years. And I don't think he's wrong there, but how do you justify this bill then being an omnibus bill?
Well, yeah, I guess by omnibus. Now, look, omnibus has gotten a really bad rap. Basically, you're taking two or three multiple things out of a single subject bill and putting it into something that has more structure to it, more items in it. So it becomes a vehicle to move legislation in a multifaceted fashion rather than a single subject. Now, we all want to get back to regular order. We know that. But you cannot take a reconciliation bill like this. And the reason we did this is so that we can – now the Senate's going to have to take it up, and they only need a simple majority now to pass this thing and get it on the president's desk by July 4th. You're not going to do that with single subject bills. You would have had 100 of them to go over, and that's just not possible in our day and age. We don't have the time to do that.
Yeah. How do you feel about the cuts? Because obviously DOGE has been a major part of this first 120 days for the administration. We know about the debt issues this country's facing. Nothing's going to be perfect, but how do you feel about that part of this bill?
I like it. It's our job now to codify these DOGE cuts. We're working through that on the appropriations process as well. Yesterday, we just had Secretary of State Marco Rubio before our subcommittee on state and foreign operations, now called National Security and State Department related programs. And we went through these programs that are being cut, 80% of them in the USAID portfolio. We're going to rename those the National Security Investment Projects. Just one example of the things that we're doing to right size our government under the leadership of Donald Trump. They have gone in there. They have identified cuts that need to be made. They've made the hard decisions. It's been a disruption. There's been a little chaos, but there's going to be, when you're steering this ship away from this reef that we were going to hit, we have $36.5 trillion worth of debt. And this bill, this rescission bill, it's not going to solve the problem overnight. We're not going to solve the problem overnight with this budget we're going to have to deal with now for 2026. But we are making incremental steps in the right direction.
How do you feel, Mark Alford, about what the Senate's going to do with this thing?
Look, I had a little meeting with Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, night before last, and he thinks that the Senate version may actually be a little bit more conservative than the House version. We are adding defense dollars to this because we've got to catch up to what the communist Chinese are doing. We've got to rebuild our military. And so they may have a few more dollars in defense. I don't know exactly how it might be more conservative than we have produced, but I'm here to tell you the Senate's going to get this done. There's momentum there as well. There is a willingness to make sure that we get this done for the American people. We have got to make sure that we maintain the majority in the House and, of course, the Senate this next go around in the midterms. If we don't do that, if we fail, then we failed the American people. The Democrats gain control of the gavels, and it will all be about impeachment of President Donald J. Trump.
So were you up? I mean, this was an all-nighter for you, Congressman. Have you done one of those since college or maybe in your TV days?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I have been up all night. I did a floor speech debating the rule on this, debating the bill at 2:30 this morning. And I have been up with my colleagues and friends waiting on this to happen. It's kind of, we were so excited. I didn't want to go to sleep. Some other people went to sleep. But no, I can't think of a time that I've pulled an all-nighter in a long, long time. You know, I used to get up at 3 in the morning when I anchored at Fox 4 for 23 years. I got up that early. But this was well worth it. This is going – Pete, I've told you this before. This is probably the most consequential bill that I will vote on in my time in Congress. And I'm not being I'm not exaggerating.
Mm-hmm.
This will turn the ship of our country, this big, beautiful bill, as Donald J. Trump said.
So you said July 4th. You mentioned earlier you hope the president is able to sign it by then. Is that realistic at this point, or are we looking at maybe a Labor Day setup?
Look, everyone doubted us. They doubted us that we could get this passed out of the House by Memorial Day. They said, oh, well, that's just a arbitrary deadline. It doesn't mean anything. It does mean things. Up here in Washington, things do not get done. And unless you set a deadline, unless you drive towards that, it's not going to get done. July 4th is a very doable deadline. Let's get it on the president's desk. Let's have a big 4th of July, Independence Day signing of the bill that is going to change America.
I like that. Well, Congressman, we'll let you get some rest. And last thing, Speaker Mike Johnson. You know, this guy, obviously, no one knew who he was outside of his district until he became Speaker of the House, and he was like the third or fourth option. How's his legacy shaping up throughout all this?
I think people are beginning to realize that there's something special about Mike Johnson. I think there's a reason that he's here at this time in our nation's history, not only to lead us in the House, to build consensus within our somewhat fractious Republican conference, but to also be a counselor of sorts to President Trump. They've become very good friends. And I think President Trump has a great admiration and respect for Mike Johnson that maybe he didn't have for Kevin McCarthy. Mm-hmm. And that makes a difference when we are all in this together, trying to move the ball forward for the American people. I think every day that Mike Johnson is in office and every day that he's our speaker, he's getting things done. He's bringing people together, and he's really performing miracles almost. I was at a dinner or a lunch the other Monday or Tuesday when I got here, and there was a lobbyist who called him. I don't think she knew what she was saying, but she says, we've taken to calling him Magic Mike because, and I don't think she had seen the movie or didn't know about Tatum Tanning. But anyway, there is something, I don't want to say magic, but there's something special about Mike Johnson, his demeanor, his attitude, his love for everyone in our conference. And I don't mean a squishy romantic love, but I mean just a human love. Treating people like they're brothers and sisters, and we've got to do this together. It's not the house of John Boehner days. It's not the house of Kevin McCarthy days. This is a new golden era, and we have a golden speaker.
I like Mike Johnson. I don't want to see him work that stripper pole anytime soon, though. I'll just say that much.
No.
Thank you, Congressman. We'll let you get some rest, all right? Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
There you go. That is Mark Alford on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. I will say Mike Johnson seems like one of those guys that everybody likes and they want to like and they want to help out. No ego, humble guy, well-respected. They are seemingly for the right reasons, and there's not a lot of that in Washington, D.C., especially when it comes to leadership oftentimes. So that is the thing that Mike Johnson has going for himself, and that's an underappreciated trait. He's just a likable guy that people want to help out, and that seems to have worked in his favor right now. There you go. The big, beautiful bill passing last hour. Mark Alford on KCMO Talk Radio. The 6 at 6, top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour, next on KCMO.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
What a busy first hour. I literally was sitting on the couch last night prepping for the show and looking through local news and national news, and sometimes I start getting a little nervous. And I said to Kate, I'm like, gosh, I just feel like there's not that story that's got a lot of punch to it for tomorrow morning.
It was kind of like that on the local scene, just FYI.
Yeah, I know. And now here we are.
Yeah. Whoops.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike Johnson. Thank you. Suddenly we've got
Magic Johnson.
Yeah, Magic Mike. Magic Mike Johnson.
I thought of Johnson first. I go, well, no, you can't do Magic Johnson. That's taken. And then Magic Mike, you're right.
Magic Mike. Yeah, there you go. Mark Alford breaking that one out on KCMO Talk Radio. How about that, man?
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
Here we go.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on 95.7 KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
Speaking of Magic Mike, yeah, they got it done. The big, beautiful bill, as it has been dubbed, passing the House of Representatives right before we got on the air this morning at 6 o'clock. So 215 to 214. That was the breakdown of this vote, and this extends the president's 2017 tax cuts. It also has, no tips on overtime, all these things that Trump has been obviously lobbying for and advocating for since he was on the campaign trail. A lot of those are in the bill. Now it goes to the Senate. The Senate will, I'm sure, make its own tweaks to that bill. Go back to the House, around and around we go. But as you heard from Mark Alford, they want this thing signed by July 4th, Independence Day. So that's the goal, the big, beautiful bill passing the House of Representatives right before we got on the air at 6 o'clock this morning.
Number 2.
For the 6 at 6 tragedy in Washington, D.C. A pro-Palestinian man is in custody after allegedly killing 2 Israeli embassy staff members who were leaving an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. last night. The Embassy of Israel to the U.S. identified the victims as Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram, who were set to be engaged. This happened just after 9 p.m. last night, and the man in custody is Elias Rodriguez of Chicago. He is believed to have committed the acts alone, and he is currently in custody. A gun was also recovered, and this is what he sounded like as he was taken into custody last night.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Total wacko. And hopefully he gets
Number
what he
3.
deserves. Next up for the 6 at 6, the Black and Veatch update. Well, this big Black and Veatch proposal for a $1 billion mixed-use project here in Overland Park has passed through the Finance, Administration, and Economic Development Committee. That does not mean it's a done deal, but we've talked a lot about this week, and yes, it did get through the Finance, Administration, and Economic Development Committee yesterday. So this moves forward. This would include about $250 million in TIF funding and incentives for Black and Veatch to build this mixed-use development on their current property right off College Boulevard here in Overland Park. And that takes the next step forward. We'll get to more of that coming up next hour here on KCMO Talk Radio.
Number 4.
Well, we've got a dangerous fugitive at large in Kansas City, according to authorities. The Greater Kansas City Crime Stoppers program is asking for the public's assistance locating Terrell M. Simpson, who is wanted in relation to a fatal double shooting in December of 2024. A reward of up to $25,000 is available for any information that leads to an arrest in this case. According to court documents in Jackson County, Simpson was involved in an incident that left a 17 and a 19-year-old dead in the 6,000 block of Blue Hills Road. He faces 2 charges for accessory to first-degree murder and 2 charges of armed criminal action. The shooting took place December 9th of last year. Anybody with information, call the TIPS hotline 816-474-TIPS.
Number 5.
Let's go to Lawrence. Welcome home, Jock Vaughn. Kansas great Jock Vaughn, former All-American. His number 11 jersey hangs from the rafters of Allen Fieldhouse, is coming back to Lawrence as an assistant coach for his alma mater. Bill Self making this announcement yesterday. Vaughn served as an NBA head coach for 5+ seasons with the Orlando Magic and the Brooklyn Nets, and the first ever former NBA head coach to join the KU coaching staff. He brings more than 15 years of NBA coaching experience back to his alma mater, and he's coached the likes of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, DeAndre Jordan, Victor Oladipo, Ben Simmons, and former Jayhawks Markieff Morris and Jalen Wilson. So there's some thought that maybe, just maybe, Jacque Vaughn is a coach in waiting for whenever Bill Self decides to hang him up, but we'll have to wait and see.
Number 6.
And the Royals get the series win yesterday in San Francisco against the Giants. Salvador Perez hits a 2-run homer, 8-4 victory for KC. Day off today before they continue their road trip tomorrow against the Minnesota Twins, 7:10 first pitch from Minneapolis. There's your 6 at 6. Coming up next, a local media outlet got this right about a Kansas City story. We'll tell you next. Got to give credit where it's due to the Heartlander. They do a nice job, and they're part of the Herzog Foundation, who you hear with their weekend show at 1:30 right after Mark Alford on Saturday afternoons here on KCMO Talk Radio. Our good buddy Chris Stegall is obviously involved with them and what they're doing. So 2 days ago, we told you about this Kansas City gift. That stands for Generating Income for Tomorrow. And they announced a new $100,000 grant that they will award to a locally Black-owned business. The applications are now open. The organization said the goal is to help accelerate the growth of a high-performing Black-owned business in Kansas City, Missouri. So the obvious question is this legal? If there was any other group where you said, hey, we've got a grant, but it's race-specific for whites, it's specific for Asians, it's specific for Jews, people would be going ballistic. But like Fox 4 writes this story and nobody bats an eye. So the Heartlander and Michael Ryan wrote a good piece here. And the headline is Kansas City Race-Based Business Grant Program Likely Illegal, National Organization Says. So they talk about in this piece how since the inception, the organization has distributed more than $1.8 million in grants to 77 Black-owned businesses. The organization's website lists foundations and government grants among its funders, but it's unclear from the funders listed what government monies it receives. American Alliance for Equal Rights tell the Heartlander that the Kansas City gift grants appear to violate federal law. One person quoted here as saying, this program appears to violate our nation's civil rights laws. Regardless of the intent, treating individuals different by race is unfair, polarizing, and illegal. Yeah, of course it is.
Well, I will note, too, I thought it was interesting that there was a defined parameter of where those businesses, plural, could be in the city. If you'll recall, I know yesterday when we did the story, I know we mentioned Hardesty as maybe the eastern boundary, et cetera. And I don't know if you have that there was 103rd Street or Bannister.
Preference for businesses east of Truce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Redlining.
Yeah.
Redlining. Well, I mean, if you had a business, I thought it occurred to me. It's like if I have a business on 103rd out by Jasper's or somewhere around there, Black-owned business, I don't qualify because I'm outside of the parameters because I believe it said Bannister, 95th Street.
The Fox 4 piece just says preference for businesses east of Truce, to your point.
Yeah.
So the Heartlander reached out to the CEO of this Kansas City gift. His name is Brandon Calloway. And here's what he told the Heartlander. If we were only focusing on Black-owned businesses solely for being Black, that would be one thing, he said. But we are funding Black-owned businesses in low and moderate income areas, specifically so they can create jobs and have a positive impact on economic development and contribute to a reduction in poverty-related crime. That doesn't make any sense. Let's be very clear. He says if we're only focusing on Black-owned businesses solely for being Black, that would be one thing. You have to be a Black-owned business to apply. What do you mean you're not focusing on businesses solely for being Black? You can't apply unless the business is 51% Black-owned. And that opens up a whole nother can of worms that, I won't even go down. How do you identify as Black? Like, do you have to be half Black? Can you be a quarter Black? Like, what's Black? That's a road I don't really want to go down. But I'm not going to lie. My mind went there right away. I'm like, how do you identify as being 51% Black-owned? How Black do you have to be a 51% Black-owned business? This is like a Seinfeld skit at this point. How Black are you? A little more Black than you. I might be more Black than John. I got a little Italian in me. That may qualify. In some cases, you go back through the centuries. There's some of that mixed in there. Mark has no Black in him as far as I can tell. So I'm just
Dutch.
Yeah, a little Dutch.
He's got more than Tim Walz. So,
So the Heartlander talks to the CEO, and he talks out of both sides of his mouth here. If we're only focused on Black-owned businesses for being Black, that would be one thing. You literally are doing that. But then he says we're funding Black-owned businesses in low and moderate income areas so they can create jobs and have a positive impact on economic development and contribute to a reduction in poverty-related crime. He says, we routinely turn away grant requests from black business owners because the particular request has no ability or willingness to create a job. Therefore, it does not fit our mission of economic development. Dude, the whole point is that it's a race-based grant. Yeah, you turned away black-owned businesses because they're the only ones who can apply.
Oh, I see what you did there, or they did there.
Oh, we turn away black-owned businesses all the time. Yeah, because nobody else can apply. Come on. I mean, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Show
Please.
some RESPICT.
Show a little bit of respect. Just a little bit. That's all I'm asking for. All right? I mean, no kidding, you're turning away black-owned businesses. No one else is allowed to apply for the grant. So the Heartlander here in town goes on the note. Another organization overturned racist admission policies in twin U.S. Supreme Court cases involving Harvard and UNC in 2023. Meantime, a U.S. 11th Circuit Court of Appeals panel last June ruled a Georgia hedge fund called Fearless Fund likely violated federal statute, which prohibits racial discrimination in contracts. So they go on to give all these examples that would suggest this Kansas City gift program is illegal. Now, is anybody going to do anything about it? I doubt the city will. The mayor will be on the show tomorrow. He's not on the show today. He's coming back from Qatar. Had his big trip to Qatar. He was very quiet the last couple of days on social media, but he's might be at JFK right now. I think he's where he was going to be this morning. So maybe he's streaming us on the KCMO Talk Radio app. If not, you should be doing that as well if you're not in the car yet on 95.7 FM. But the mayor will be here tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, and I've got to ask him about this because I don't understand how this is a legal program in Kansas City. And I'm glad that somebody actually has interest in pointing this out versus most of local media, which is just like, yeah, this program's available. Make sure you apply. And nobody even thinks about the fact of how is this possibly legal? And if it was almost any other group, people would be crying about it, and rightfully so. There shouldn't be a grant that's only for white-owned businesses. There shouldn't be a grant that's only for Jewish-owned businesses. There should not be a grant that is only for Asian-owned businesses. If there's a grant in Kansas City for businesses trying to move the ball forward on development, you can make it regional if you want, right? You can make it exclusive to a part of Kansas City that might lean in to a certain demographic, but literally just flat out stating it's only for people of a certain skin color? Nothing about that is American. That is everything America stands against. But leave it to Kansas City to start throwing away money in what appears to be something that is inherently racist. 913-408-7957, the studio line and the text line on KCMO. On the text line, Pete, would Obama qualify? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea. How do you define any of this stuff? I don't know. You're asking the right questions, though. You're asking the right questions.
He's a cuckoo bird.
We'll have to see. Oh, my goodness gracious. Coming up on KCMO Talk Radio, I got a call from somebody who longtime Kansas Cityans will know all too well. And I'm just going to ask you, I'm just going to do a quick grassroots poll on this coming up on whether or not you want to hear from this person on the show. All right? This is going to be your call. Normally, I don't give you this type of latitude on booking guests, but I'm going to do it. Don't spoil it.
I'm having deja vu, though.
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. You're right to have deja vu.
Okay.
All right. We'll tell you who that is, and I'll get your grassroots immediate reaction coming up on KCMO Talk Radio. So we are in what season? Graduation season, right? A lot of you the last couple of weeks have been out there for high school graduations. I know college graduations last week. Heard from our friends at Benedictine. They had a big college graduation last weekend. KU was last weekend. So you're thinking about what's that big gift for graduation? Kid, loved one, whoever it might be. Well, at Diamonds Direct, they've got options for you that are under $500. So you're not thinking about necessarily breaking the bank. Now, you can if you want. Angie and her team will take outstanding care of you at Diamonds Direct. But It's really about finding something that is a piece that can be passed down through the generations. And that's what they do at Diamonds Direct. And they don't have pushy salespeople. They're not going to go above your budget. I've shopped there on multiple occasions, and they're always under budget, and they over-deliver on quality. That's what Angie and her team does at Diamonds Direct. So make sure you go check them out. They're over there at 119th and Row. You get 110% lifetime upgrade as well. That means whenever you want to trade in that piece, they'll give you 110% of your original purchase price towards your next purchase. No one does it better than Diamonds Direct. Head on over to 119th and Row or start shopping at diamondsdirect.com.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM.
So when I get done here at about 10 o'clock, we're back there. We're working on programming duties and thinking about the next day and making sure, we got giveaways for you. And we've got your next chance to win Alabama Lee Greenwood tickets coming up here in about 20 minutes on KCMO. So all that stuff's getting lined up late morning, early afternoon, helping out our sale and making sure that KCMO Talk Radio is in the best position it can possibly be. And in between that, I'm answering phone calls, not here in the studio, but, on my personal line and work line, and making sure that if there are any listener issues or complaints, we're taking care of you as best as we can. So yesterday, my phone rings. It's about 2:20 in the afternoon. And I'm like, KCMO. Hello, Mr. Mundo. Like, who's this? It's Clay Chastain, longtime Kansas City activist, multiple-time mayoral candidate. And he's talking to me about how he wants to come on to discuss a monorail petition that he is pushing around Kansas City. He wants to get a monorail proposal on the ballot in November in Kansas City. This monorail would go to downtown from the airport. Monorail would go to theoretical stadiums for the Chiefs and the Royals, and he wanted to give this thing some attention. I said, okay, what do you need? He said, well, I need 2,200 votes or 2,200 signatures to get this thing on the ballot. And then he starts pitching the idea, and, I said, how are you going to fund it? Well, it costs, I think he said $2 billion. I'm like, Kansas City doesn't have $2 billion. All the feds are dying to fund this stuff. I'm like, no, they're not. No, I mean, trust me, Trump is not looking to build a monorail system in Kansas City. I mean, I'm just kind of talking to myself at this point, but there's no way to fund this thing. The airport was $1.6 billion, but remember, the airport was funded basically by the airlines. The airlines are the ones who upgrade the airports, and then basically they pass on those charges and fees to pay back the bonds with the airline tickets that people use to fly. It's basically a user fee is what it is. This would not be that. There's no magical monorail company coming in to pay $2 billion for monorails in Kansas City. He's like, well, you want to keep the teams, don't you? I said, well, I'm just kind of covering this thing. I want the teams to stay in the Kansas City region. Of course, I want that. And frankly, I don't think Clark Hunt or John Sherman are sitting there saying, if only we had a damn monorail around here, we'd be just fine, and we would do exactly what Missouri and Jackson County and Kansas City wanted us to do. If only there was that monorail. So he's wanting to come on, and I'm like, listen, I don't think this is a big story. So I said, listen, tell me where you're collecting signatures, and at least I can tell people where to go if they want to sign this petition. So he didn't really have a plan.
Huh.
And then he goes on to say, well, I just want to bring awareness to this. I'm like, so are you trying to collect signatures, or are you looking for attention on the issue? Well, I'll be out at the Price Chopper in Brookside today.
Of course.
I said, okay, great. So if people want to go out and sign the petition, you can go to the Price Chopper in Brookside and do that. I don't have any times for you. I guess there's a couple other people on the east side promoting this as well, but I couldn't give you any locations or times. And it's like, that's where it's if it's just a slapstick deal, I'm not going to sit here and spend a lot of time on the show talking about this. I'm just not going to do it. Now, you tell me at 913-408-7957 on the text line if you feel differently. But based on the text line, I'm seeing a lot of, no, don't do it.
Some of us that have been here for a while, remember, it's the same song, different day, different decade, actually.
Different decade, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing new here.
No, exactly. So right now, it's a 10-to-1 ratio on the text line of people saying, no thanks, I'll pass. That's what I expected, because the plan is not fleshed out at all. I mean, there's really nothing to it that you can say, hey, here's the plan, here's where you go. It's just an idea. And frankly, it's an idea that even if it were to get to a ballot and pass, who's paying for a $2 billion monorail around here?
The time to be involved when we planned the streetcar.
Well, yeah, that was the time.
Star bonds.
No.
Kansas City Star bonds.
Yeah, don't give them any ideas, Mark, okay? Please. Don't give anybody any more bad ideas on trying to duplicate star bonds on the Missouri side for a monorail. Oh my goodness. And I had a 2:30 meeting, so I had to cut the phone call short. But I'm like, nice man, but I am not interested in furthering that conversation. But anyway, you might find Clay at the Price Chopper in Brookside if you're so inclined. Coming up on KCMO, the big, beautiful bill passed in the early morning hours through the House of Representatives. What does it mean? And there's one thing in it. I mean, there's a lot of things in it I don't like, but I want to ask you about this one specific thing in it next.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee. But I know I'll be
There you go.
along
Nice job, Mark. Well done, my man.
But today I am still just a bill.
There you go. The big, beautiful bill passing early morning hours. Give the reference there, Mark. Take the credit for that song.
Thank you very much. Schoolhouse Rock. I'm just a bill. Love that song.
There you go. Nice job, man.
Randomly pops in my head all the time.
There you go. Doing what we do every day. That's a good one to pop in your head. Excellent work. Right before we got on the air at 6 o'clock, actually, I missed it. I came on the air at like 6:05, 6:04, and I'm like, hey, it looks like this thing's going to pass. It got through the Rules Committee. And then in the last 5 minutes before we got on the air, it passed the House 215 to 214. So that's been the big breaking news this morning. Congressman Mark Alford was on the show last hour, right after the news broke, and here was his reaction here on KCMO Talk Radio.
Even if we win by one vote, it is still a victory. This is a victory for the American people. I knew that this was going to pass. I've been telling everyone it's going to pass. The momentum was in our favor. We got a few things worked out. Some for the Freedom Caucus, who wanted the eligibility requirements to kick in sooner for Medicaid, which I was fighting for as well. We got that down from 2029 to 2026. And we also satisfied the SALT issue with those members in New York, California, Illinois, raising the deduction amount to $40,000 from $10,000 from where it is now. But look, Pete, this is a huge, huge win for America. I've been telling you about this. This is going to skyrocket business and our economy. We have been a slingshot that has been pulled back. It's about to release. And I predict in the third and fourth quarter of this year, you're going to see a record economy for America. The bond markets are responding. The stock market will respond. Our businesses will be safe and secure. We will not experience the largest tax increase in U.S. history. And what was at stake had we not passed it.
So that was Mark Alford last hour on the breaking news here on KCMO. The President of the United States just posting on his Truth Social, all caps, the one big, beautiful bill has passed the House of Representatives. This is arguably the most significant piece of legislation that will ever be signed in the history of our country. I think the Founding Fathers may have something to say about that. But either way, that's Trump. The bill includes massive tax cuts, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, tax deductions when you purchase an American-made vehicle, along with strong border security measures, pay raises for our ICE and Border Patrol agents, funding for the Golden Dome, Trump savings accounts for newborn babies, and much more. Great job by Speaker Mike Johnson, House leadership, and thank you to every Republican who voted yes on this historic bill now. It's time for our friends in the U.S. Senate to get to work. Send the bill to my desk as soon as possible. There's no time to waste, writes the president. The Democrats have lost control of themselves and are aimlessly wandering around, showing no confidence, grit, or determination. They have forgotten their landslide loss in the presidential election and are warped in the past, hoping someday to revive open borders for the world's criminals to be able to pour into our country, men to be able to play in women's sports, and transgender for everybody. They don't realize that these things and so many more like them will never again happen. Transgender for everybody. What is that? You get a transgender, and you get a tranny, and you get a tranny, and he gets a tranny, and then them get a tranny. Transgender for everyone. Oh, my goodness. Classic. That's the president just reacting here a few minutes ago on his Truth Social page to the House passing this bill. I want to ask you about this, though. You heard him say there in the post, Trump savings accounts for newborn babies. We talked about this a few weeks ago, but it looks like there's actually something like this in the bill. Here's what Kevin Hassett, he's been working on this on behalf of the administration, had to say last night about that part of the big, beautiful bill on News Nation.
So the big, beautiful bill has a lot of beautiful stuff in it that nobody's talking about, which is another one of your themes. And so one of the things I like the best is that for every baby, it's in the bill, every baby born in America, then the minute they're born, the government creates a $1,000 account, puts it into the stock market for them so that they've got it when they retire. And then they get to look at that account on their iPhone or their phone for the rest of their lives and see what America is doing for them. And I think that that kind of bill is exactly what we need right now. And we don't need, like, we've extended the tax cuts, which created all this manufacturing in the U.S., but we focused really on the middle class in this bill. And that's why it's going to probably pass tonight or early in the morning. And that's my intel from the meeting with the president today.
So $1,000 for every baby that's born that gets put into an account that then you get when you retire. Now, this is what they should do with Social Security. If you privatize Social Security, you put it into a fund that basically mirrors the S&P 500, you will be so freaking rich you won't know what to do with it. Instead, we've got this shell game and this Ponzi scheme that is Social Security as we know it today. But I look at this and I say, okay, it's a nice idea. It's not a big cost. Like last year, there were 3.5 million babies born in the United States. So that's about $3.5 billion. And I know that we say, wait, that's not a lot of money. It's not to Congress. It's not a lot of money. If every baby got a $1,000 savings account that then mirrored the stock market and you get it at retirement, you'll get a lot of money. I mean, I crunched the numbers here this morning. If you get $1,000 when you're born and you figure on average 10% rate of return, that's what the stock market's done on average for the last 100 years or so, and you just don't do anything until you're 65 years old, you will have $490,000 in that account. That's compound interest for you. If your money doubles on average every 7 years or so, rule of 72, you'll be sitting on about $500,000 at the 85 if you just go based on the average returns. So it sounds good. But at the same time, the devil's always in the details on this stuff. When can you start tapping into this money? Could your parents, let's be honest, there's going to be a lot of parents out there who are going to be like, my kid was just born. I'm taking that right now. I'm going to a Chiefs game. They don't understand the power of compound interest. They won't care about compound interest. And I don't think buying people to have babies is a good idea. And suggesting that this is what America can do for you. No. It's not up to America to raise your children or look out for your kids or look out for their retirement. It's up to you as a parent. It's up to the individual. To me, it's not about the money. The money's not all that big. But it's about the sentiment of like, here's what America... No. America's not doing it. The taxpayer is funding this. The taxpayer is doing this for other people. All right? That's what this ultimately is about. And that's why, as much as I'm a fan of maybe people learning about how powerful compound interest is and why saving the minute you can start saving and investing as quickly as you can is a smart move, the younger you are, the more powerful that compound interest becomes. This is not something that I think will teach the people that need to be taught this stuff anything whatsoever. 913-408-7957, our text line and our studio line on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Victor's in Parkville. Go ahead, Victor. You're on KCMO. Good morning.
Good morning, Pete. You touched on it. This is the first step in saving/phasing out Social Security. Because if they're going to have this amount of money, they're not going to be wanting Social Security. This will also encourage people to invest as they get older, so they're not going to be needing Social Security. The less people you have in Social Security, the more you have involved in the private sector, and that'll boost the economy. I mean, it's what, a couple $1 billion or $1 billion a year nowadays? They piss that away on a weekend.
They do.
This is nothing for the federal government.
Hey, listen, I will, if you're right about this, Victor, and if this is about ultimately phasing out Social Security, which, to your point, Social Security cost and paid out $1.4 trillion in benefits in fiscal year 23. We're talking about
Exactly.
$3 billion on average. You know, if 3 million babies are born, you give them each $1,000, that's $3 billion a year. That is nothing.
Right.
So
Right.
if this is about the larger picture and maybe one day phasing it out for newborn babies, I'm all in. I want to hear that, though, from the president. I want to hear that.
Well, didn't it actually start out at one point where the money was actually put in a quote unquote lock box invested in the United States until they finally took the money and put it into the general fund because they wanted to spend it?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the way it used to work. And if it still worked that way, we wouldn't be in this mess now, would we?
Well, yeah, you can say that about a lot of things in this country. You're right. Here's my other issue. Thank you, Victor. My other issue here, though, is at some point a Democrat's going to be back in the White House. Democrats are going to have control of Congress. So how does that factor into this plan to set up every baby born in the U.S. with a $1,000 account, and then you can pull it up on your phone and just look at it and track it over the years, but you can't touch it till what age? There's just a lot of things that need to be answered, a lot of questions that need to be answered on that specific issue. Mark, you want to have another kid to see if this thing is for real, this $1,000 savings account? You got one more in you?
I mean, we could, I guess. I don't think we're going to, but
Hey.
if we need it for the show.
Anything for the company.
Yeah.
Anything for the show. Maybe I got to dabble and see what this is all about, you know? See how this $1,000 account deal gets set up, what it looks like. Pull it up on my phone. Becomes a storyline for the show for the next, 20, 30 years. It's got potential. I'll just say that much. It's got potential. Well, you've got the potential right now to win tickets for this Friday to see Alabama and Lee Greenwood at Azura Amphitheater. Seventh caller, 913-408-7957. It's 913-408-7957. Seventh caller will win the Alabama Lee Greenwood tickets here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM, and streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Coming up next, one of our bordering states has a young lady who is an absolute hero. We'll explain next.
Dave Ramsey here, and you're listening to Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, now airing on FM at 95.7.
All right, who won the Alabama Lee Greenwood tickets there, John?
We got Peggy in Overland Park. Is number 7 this time, going to the show tomorrow night with Alabama and Lee Greenwood at Azura Amphitheater.
All right, enjoy the show there, Peggy. You got your next chance at 10:45 this morning with Kevin Keatsman. Uncanceled takes over at 10 o'clock. Texter's wondering, Mark, when the old snipper's happening there for you, buddy. What's the plan? Do you have a plan? Is there a plan to enact or no?
I mean, there was going to be a plan, and then that time passed. It was around March Madness, so I might have to do it next March.
Yeah. You got to get ahead of that, man.
Yeah.
Everybody wants it. Everyone
too,
wants it done around March Madness. All right? But if you do it around March Madness and you can't come to work, you got to call in with the parlays.
Oh, yeah.
Next year. All right? That's the deal. So you got some time. You got 10 months to figure that out. All right there, big guy? Okay.
Got it.
Well, speaking of snipping, people who probably should be getting snipped, we've got a couple examples here. Over in Illinois, you've got a middle school track meet that is now a sore spot and a controversial spot due to a transgender student's participation in this middle school track meet in Illinois. It's got some parents up in arms. CNN writes here, Marie Davis and Doug Krine's 7th grade daughter was among those who competed in the track meet in the Naperville School District. They say their daughter competed against a biological male, some may refer to that as a transgender female, who won multiple girls' events at the meet. The mother said, I was actually shocked. At first I couldn't believe it. I started talking to other parents, and it's like, is this really happening? It's pretty upsetting to see your kid distraught out there trying to do her best and doesn't really have a shot. Oh, you don't say.
Talk about a bombshell.
Exactly what we've been talking about. Until it happens to you, it's great to be woke and have your yard signs up and, wave your flags. Until suddenly it's your daughter who's working her tail off, trying to win a race, trying to win a long jump, triple jump, whatever it might be, hurdles, and being like, sorry, kid, you've got absolutely no shot to win this thing, John.
I'd say you just treat it like the Pekingese neighborhood dog out on the track. You would just laugh and ignore that part,
Yeah.
Let's just make it among the qualified entrants.
Well, schools can't do that these days.
No,
that wouldn't be inclusive, So the father said here to CNN, it's pretty upsetting to see your kid distraught. Parents argued about the situation at a school board meeting days after the track meet. On Monday night, the turnout was so large, they had to set up an overflow room. One parent said that no girl should be denied participating in a conference championship because a genetic boy is taking that spot. You don't say. Another parent said a school system that values every student is what we demand and expect. No. You don't get to use that line of argument. You don't get to use it. Because what you're doing then is you're valuing one student against and over another one who is competing in their proper genetic race based on who and what they are. The boy is not doing that. So that was in Illinois. And then you've got this story. This made it on Fox News last night. This is Katie McGinnis. She ended up posing on the first place podium because she technically had lost to a male-born athlete, and she was not having it. She took photos of herself on the first place stand. Good for her. Watch her interview. Take a listen to what she said last night on Fox News. Here we go. Katie McGinnis.
However, on my third jump, I watched AB do their jump, and the numbers on the screen lit up to 19 feet 2 inches, which was the furthest mark of that day. And I just remember thinking to myself, okay, I need to get a big jump. And so normally something typical that long jump athletes will do is they start a clapping sequence kind of to gain momentum from the crowd and kind of feel the rhythm of the jump. And so I did that, and I ran down the runway, and I landed, and I watched them measure my mark, and it was 18.9. And I just remember thinking that there was nothing else that I could do, that was it. That was it. And I was honestly very discouraged. And, I'm a high school senior, and, winning CIF has always been a goal of mine. And I wasn't able to compete with someone who is genetically different than me.
There you go. How about that? Katie McGinnis standing on the first place podium, taking a picture of herself on Fox News last night. This is out of Southern California. So these two stories in the last 12 hours, you have a lot of these track championships going on right now as we get towards the end of the school year. And Katie McGinnis in Southern California also not putting up with the nonsense.
That's what I'm saying. Just ignore them.
Yeah. So you've got Illinois in the middle school, and now you've got California as well. And parents of young girls are done with this. There's a very small subset, I believe, of parents of daughters who are going to put up with this and are so woke who are going to say to their own daughters, sorry, I know you worked really hard, but, sometimes the chips fall where they may, and you're just kind of SOL, as they say.
You know what you say to your daughter? Bro.
She's a real beauty.
I mean, it's like, what do you cannot possibly look your own child in the eye and tell them that they lost these races fair and square. And parents in California are done with it. In Illinois, when they're done with it. And we know they're done with it here in Kansas and Missouri. So good on these girls and their parents for speaking up as well. News in 2 minutes. Dayton Moore at 8:30. Coming up next, the president in the Oval Office. Yeah, I'd say this is exactly are in physical danger in South Africa. Now, the president, of course, and this administration has welcomed in South African refugees. A media that just loved the idea for 40 years of open borders, did nothing to cover it, suddenly was outraged over 60 South Africans who happen to be white being welcomed to the United States as part of the refugee program in the last couple of weeks. So yesterday, the South African president shows up, and he wants to reset relations with the president of the United States. And what did the president do? Well, he gave him the business. He chewed this guy's butt out. And he had the data and he had the video to back it up. So if you didn't see this, at one point yesterday, they're going back and forth on whether or not white farmers in South Africa are in serious danger. And they're going back and forth. They're doing their Trump thing. The cameras are rolling. And then Trump says, hang on a second here. I got some video for you. Turn down the lights, he says. The lights dim, and the president starts rolling this footage of people in the South African government chanting, lobbying, and advocating for the death of the white farmers.
We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. Yes. South African occupy land. That's who we are.
We must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
Shoot to kill. Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer, power. To kill. Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer.
So Trump rolls this tape yesterday, and the telltale sign to me was the reaction of South African President Ramaphosa. You may remember, if you're a longtime watcher of Bill O'Reilly, when he was on Fox and the No Spin News, he did a body language segment the last probably 4 or 5 years he was on the air. And it was a fantastic segment. He'd have these body language experts, and they would analyze, some of the big moments happening in the news and politics, whatever. And these body language experts would then basically interpret what these people are feeling and what they're thinking based on their body language. Body language is just a great telltale sign. I'm not an expert, but it's fun to see the experts do their thing on this stuff. And you can see Ramaphosa as he's sitting there in the Oval Office while Trump's playing this video. Trump is staring at the screen for 3 minutes. He doesn't take his eyes off it. Ramaphosa starts, moving his butt in his seat. He's looking around. He's looking down. He's looking away from the video. He's clearly very uncomfortable with the whole thing. Now, he goes on to argue that these people are chanting this stuff for a minority party, but at one point they're filling I don't know if it's a soccer stadium or what it is, tens of thousands of people there chanting along with them is what's going on. So Trump is dead set on the screen, doesn't bat an eye. Well, the South African president watching that video where people in his own government are chanting for the death of white farmers, he is squirming like a worm, man. That's what he's doing. So how is the media covering this yesterday? Well, this is what CNN wrote. Their headline piece: world leaders have a huge new problem. Trump's Oval Office smackdowns. Yep. Voted for that. Absolutely voted for Trump's Oval Office smackdowns on world leaders who are not doing right by their own citizens, and in many cases also not doing right by the American taxpayer, i.e. Zelensky. You can absolutely be on Ukraine's side. I want to see him win the war, but also there's got to be an off-ramp here. And when that guy comes to the U.S. and then starts disrespecting our leaders, when our taxpayers have been very, very generous to their cause, not something a lot of us signed up for. South African president coming in and trying to maybe showboat his way or, get in the good graces of American media and American press. Trump's not going to sit there and stand for it. He came prepared, right? He came prepared for the moment. Instead of just having a back and forth, he said, roll the tape. These are the people in your government. What are you going to do about it? So that is where Trump came and he actually had the data and the information to back it up. And the South African president's just kind of talking to himself in circles is what's going on yesterday with that. And there was another moment yesterday that stood out to me during this meeting. Retief Goosen. If you are a golf fan, you will know the name Retief Goosen. I want to say he either won a U.S. Open or a PGA championship at some point in his career. I believe it was a U.S. Open. Really good golfer in his prime, probably he wasn't a top 5 guy, probably a top 15, top 20 guy at his best in the world in golf. Going back 15, 20 years. He was in the Oval Office yesterday. He is a white South African, and he told the story of his own family struggling to run their own farm.
I grew up in an area in South Africa that is a farmland area, Polokwane, and there is some issues up there. Obviously, my dad was a property developer as well as a part-time farmer, and some of these buddy farmers got killed. The farm is still going. My brothers run it, but it's a constant battle with farms they're trying to burn the farms down to chase you away. So it is a concern to try and make a living as a farmer. And at the end of the day, without farmers, there's no food on the plate.
That was former professional golfer Retief Goosen yesterday, talking in the Oval Office about some of the issues his own family has been facing during, their time in South Africa. And as many of you are noting on the text line, when you hear those chants, kill the Boer, that means what? Kill the whites. That's what it means. That's why Trump was running that video. And in large part, he was running that video for the world to see, for the media to cover. That's why the president did that. But of course, what do many media do? They simply take the other side because they can't fathom the idea of allowing this guy to be right about anything. They just can't afford to do it. So you've got this going on yesterday, and here was the media compilation on multiple outlets of their coverage last night.
The dramatic scene in the Oval Office today, the tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Up next, another Oval Office meltdown. President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush today.
Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader.
Zelensky territory, where essentially he was a bit ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Felt like an ambush in there, kind of like the President Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office.
There you go. Why is that word ambush, 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 and ambush, John?
I was wondering about that, if this episode or that particular segment was brought to you by Ambush Perfume. Now, exactly, the word of the day. Nobody said surprised,
Yeah.
Ganged up on or anything like that. Ambush.
Ambush. Oh, the poor South African president who nobody could name 5 minutes ago. Poor guy. It's like that. They're just, it's like clockwork. They're going to take that side no matter what. No matter what. Now, does Trump do his thing in the Oval Office in these settings where he bloviates, where he exaggerates? Yes, that's par for the course. And, in a perfect world, would Trump have every single fact in his back pocket? Yeah, he would. That's where actually the next wave of MAGA is like a J.D. Vance, who is able to actually take some of the bluster out of these arguments and have the data in his back pocket. But Trump's a showman. That's how he talks. We know that about him. There's a lot of good with that, and there's some bad with that, where he's not as dialed in on some of the details and some of the numbers, because then the media gets hung up on, well, Trump exaggerated this point or he exaggerated that point, instead of saying the broader point he's trying to get at is you've got a racial reckoning happening in this country, and the president wants to come to the Oval Office of that country and talk about it. Fine, but you're not getting away scot-free. We're not going to just sit here and do a little photo op because it makes you look good. And that's what we should want. If we're going to continue to be the leader of the free world, guess what? I'm totally fine with this. In fact, I embrace it. And the more of it, the merrier. And the fact that the media is like all upset and like, woe is me for the South African president, please. My goodness, can they at any point in time take the side of America on this stuff? And up until 10 minutes ago, they loved every refugee from every corner of the world, except apparently white people from South Africa. Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Well, they're trying to scheme the system.
I know.
Pete.
Suddenly, we had 20 million people across the border. 59 people come from South Africa. What?
Hey, those doesn't look like they need sunscreen over there.
Oh, my goodness. You just can't make it up with these guys. You really can't. Dayton Moore will be here in 20 minutes on KCMO Talk Radio. Tragedy happening outside the Israeli embassy last night in D.C., and one of those shot dead is from Johnson County, Kansas. We have the details next on KCMO Talk Radio. In the meantime, it is that time of year where you're thinking about graduations. You got parties, you got kids, nieces, nephews, college, high school, whatever it might be. And if you're thinking about that timeless gift, well, Diamonds Direct has it for you right here at 119th and Row. And at Diamonds Direct, they will take outstanding care of you, where it's not going to be this like pushy, really fast diamond buying experience where you're like, what did I buy? And I just went way over my budget. It's not what I wanted here. They don't do that over at Diamonds Direct. So you go in there, Angie, Tom, and the team will take great care of you, and you will absolutely walk out of there, first off, knowing what you're buying and having an absolute deal and a lifetime piece of jewelry to go along with it. You also get the 110% lifetime upgrade guarantee. That means when the person with the diamond wants to maybe trade it in and upgrade, they'll get 110% of their original purchase price towards that next diamond. Head on in, tell them we sent you at KCMO right there at 119th and Row, or start shopping at diamondsdirect.com.
From the nation's heartland, it's Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Well, this is a breaking news story we've been following since we got on the air this morning at 6, and now some details, sadly, tying this back to Kansas City. So last night at about 9 o'clock outside of the Israel Embassy in Washington, D.C., a pro-Palestinian man shot and killed, allegedly, 2 Israeli embassy staff members. The embassy staff members, identified as Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram, who were set to be engaged. It turns out that Sarah Milgram is from Overland Park. I just got off the phone with a couple of people during the break, and Sarah went to Shawnee Mission East. She graduated from KU, and then she went to D.C. to work at the embassy. So the Metropolitan Police Department said during a news conference that officers responded to multiple calls of a shooting near the museum at about 9:08 p.m. last night. They arrived at the scene, and Milgram and her fiancé, Lashinsky, were found unconscious and not breathing. Despite life-saving efforts from first responders, Smith said both were pronounced dead. A 30-year-old man identified as Elias Rodriguez of Chicago is believed to have committed the act alone and is in custody. So the American Jewish Committee reported this morning that it was, and confirmed that it was, Milgram along with Lashinsky who were gunned down following the AJC's annual Young Diplomats reception. So they were putting on this event last night. Milgram, described as warm and compassionate, committed to peace building, and passionate about sustainability and people-to-people relations. Among her duties was organizing visits and missions to Israel. Milgram and Lashinsky were leaving this event at the Capitol Jewish Museum when the suspect approached a group of 4 people and opened fire. And, of course, when Rodriguez was taken into custody, what did this scumbag do?
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
You know, Mark, you caught that before I heard it, as this guy who is allegedly the shooter is chanting Free Palestine as he's being thrown in handcuffs. You can hear somebody else in the crowd as he's yelling Free Palestine. He says, from Hamas.
Interesting. There you go. Complete the sentence. That's my theory.
Yeah. So somebody else in the crowd was completing the sentence for this. Mm-hmm. I don't even like to call him pro-Palestine. It's really just an anti-Israel, anti-Semite is what he is. 913-408-7957. So this woman gunned down last night outside of the embassy is an Overland Park native, went to Shawnee Mission East, and graduated from KU, Sarah Milgram. Paul is in Kansas City. Hello, Paul. Good morning.
Hey, Pete. How you doing? Yeah, it's a tragic day. I'm attending an event today at the J at the White Theater, a movie screening, and they've got private security there, so it's pretty good. But at my synagogue, which is a small one, folks like myself, ex-military, ex-police officers, we provide our own armed security during Shabbat. So it's just a sign of the times that we've got to continue to stay vigilant out there. And it just breaks my heart for that family and the family of her fiance too. So it's just tragic. But I'm going to the event. They're not going to stop me. I'll be at 115th and Knoll at J today. So they're not going to stop me, Pete.
Yeah, you can't let them, brother. You can't. You know, if you let them stop you, then the terrorists win, right?
Absolutely, Pete. Have a great day.
You as well. Thanks so much. Thanks. So we're learning more about this Elias Rodriguez, who he is, what his background is, and I'm reading about some of this in real time. But he's the one who was arrested, 31 years old, out of Chicago for this act of terrorism. Rodriguez, writes the New York Post, was once linked to the Party for Socialism and Liberation, a far-left group that regularly posts anti-Israel rhetoric on social media. The group posted yesterday, "End the genocide, Israel out of Gaza now," just hours before the shooting in Washington, D.C. The group confirmed that Rodriguez was a member in the wake of the shooting as it distanced itself from the violence. The group saying on X early this morning, "We reject any attempt to associate our organization with the D.C. shooting. Elias Rodriguez is not a member of the PSL," they wrote on X. He had a brief association with one branch that ended back in 2017. We know of no contact with him over the last 7 years. We have nothing to do with the shooting, and we do not support it. In a since-deleted article on the group's Liberation News outlet, Rodriguez was described as a member who participated in the 2017 Black Lives Matter protest outside of the home of then-Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel. Rodriguez also railed against Amazon during the protest, accusing the company of not sharing its wealth with black residents. His bio on LinkedIn was deleted after the shooting, noting that he holds a bachelor's degree in English from the University of Illinois at Chicago. Well, we know what this guy's political background is, what his political beliefs are, right? We know that much about him. So something tells me this thing will not exactly have legs in our national media. But our prayers are going out to Sarah Milgram's family from Overland Park, Shawnee Mission East, and KU graduate, passing away in this tragedy last night. Dayton Moore, former Royals team president, will be here. A lot to get to him with coming up next.
Stream Mundo in the morning on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
There are a lot of great organizations in Kansas City, but See You in the Major Leagues, led by former Royals team president, now top advisor for the Texas Rangers, Dayton Moore, is one of the many great events and one of the many great organizations in and around Kansas City. Dayton Moore is now joining us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We're always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. And Dayton and the organization have a big event coming up 1 week from today. Dayton, good morning, my friend. How are you? And take us through the fourth annual event you've got coming up next Thursday.
Well, good morning, Pete. It's great to be with you, and good morning to all your listeners. And yeah, it's been so much fun and rewarding to just with the Seeing the Major Leagues Foundation, and we're in our 7th year of our mentoring program, which is one of the things that we do with the foundation. And it's like I said, it's been awesome just to partner these students, and the students actually have represented over 26 high schools throughout the Kansas City metro area, and they're paired up with one-on-one mentoring weekly throughout the course of the year, and part of so many different things and leadership events, and they get to hear from great speakers and go through our curriculum, our leadership curriculum and character building program. And the Top Golf event is the main fundraiser, Pete. That's how we fund the mentoring program and the scholarships, for the kids. I think we have over 20 kids in college right now that we're supplying, or awarding them with yearly scholarships as well. And so it's our 4th annual Top Golf event. It's our main fundraiser for the year. Appreciate you being a part of it. And, many people throughout the community have come together for this great cause.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's next Thursday, May 29th, and you can still get your tickets now. You go to seeyouinthemajorleagues.org/topgolf. That's CU, just the letter seeyouinthemajorleagues.org/topgolf. And there still are, not a lot, but there still are some tickets available if you want to join us out at Topgolf with Dayton Moore coming up next Thursday. So the mentoring part of this organization I want to spend some time on here, because I know this is near and dear to your heart, finding young people around Kansas City and giving them a mentorship program and opportunity. That is something that a lot of young people desperately need. How did you think about this part of the organization and the value in it for Kansas City?
Well, I mean, I've been blessed to deal with 16 to 25-year-olds my entire professional life. And, just as we would, bring individuals out to Kauffman Stadium and sit with them and speak with them and have dinner with them and introduce them to, players and fellowship with one another, Matt Fulks, who's our director, we just felt we could do more. And to be able to utilize our resources and our platform of leadership to pair individuals up with mentors. And, a lot of there's so many people in our community that, don't have a father present in the home. And, we know the importance of strong male leadership in the lives of young people. And there's a lot of females young ladies that maybe don't have, somebody that they can talk to and share, some of the most intimate things about their life with. And so, we have intentionally, found individuals in the community who have a great heart for the next generation that want to serve, as a mentor to a young person. And, Pete, I know when you reflect back on your life, I reflect back on my life, and still today, I mean, I need mentors today as much as ever, and I had great mentors growing up, and I know what they meant, in my life as well. And I'm still very close with some of those people in my early adulthood, and as I was trying to manage through, different decisions, and people with wisdom that were around me and spoke into my life have been so meaningful. And so just really wanting the exact same thing for other people's children as you want for your own. And, that's kind of the spirit behind, trying to find mentors, for these students.
And I see next week at the Top Golf, Dayton Moore joining us on KCMO, you will have a $10,000 hole-in-one contest. You know, I've never had one in my life as like a 25 handicap, but if there's ever a time to have one, next week will be pretty darn good. Have you done that before? Has anybody ever won that?
I don't think so. No, we have. And, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City, I believe, sponsors that. And, they've been a great supporter, of our foundation, the mentoring program. And there's, like I said, it's a wonderful event. Top Golf is a neat place. It's an opportunity for everybody to get together and kind of it can be as competitive as you want it to be, but it's just a lot of fun to hit golf balls and just a great setting. And like I said, it's an opportunity to get together for a common purpose and, to help with the next generation. And, that's what we want to be about.
Dayton Moore is here, and you can still get your tickets. Top Golf next Thursday night. CU, that's the letter C, and then spell out U at topgolf.com. CU at topgolf.com. Register through tonight, May 22nd, for the event at Top Golf next Thursday, May the 29th. Dayton Moore joining us on KCMO. Dayton, obviously, there have also been a lot of rumors out there that you are exploring a run for governor of Kansas. So where are you at right now on that potential decision?
Pete, it's been a very interesting process, and we've met with a lot of people. We've had an opportunity to travel the state of Kansas and learn a great deal, and really with the sole purpose of just how we can discover the best way to serve Kansas going forward. We've always used our platform as a general manager to advance higher levels of leadership, get involved with, different aspects, of our community, our state, our region, our country. And those are the things that, we've always been very intentional about. And, this exploration is just something that, we've just been excited to learn and not 100% sure, really not. I mean, I think that, what's leadership is required today more than any other time in the history of our country and certainly in our state. And I think there's a lot of, and I say this respectfully, because I think when you step into, the political world, it takes, courage to do that. But I think there's a lot of people out there, and I've seen in our journey that, they're followers kind of disguised as leaders, if you will. And, I think we can do better. And I'm not saying that I'm the person that can do better, but I'm a person who cares. And, if we can, during this process, learn a great deal, motivate people to lead in a way that I believe is just deeply committed on an others first mentality. When I hear people at all levels of leadership talk about what I did and I'm responsible for this and I accomplished this, it just sends it's like fingernails across the chalkboard for me, because I know any measure of success personally that I've ever had, it's because of other people, and it's we and it's us and it's unity and it's together. And, I think we have to raise up a new group of leaders who understand that principle, that leadership begins and ends with putting others first. And it's about we, and it's about us. And the only time you ever use the word I or my is when I can do better, or I made a mistake, or it's my fault, or I'm accountable. And, those are the types of, I think, the leaders that we admire in this state. And those are the types of leaders and people that we want. And when you have that type of mentality, you create loyalty, you create humility and togetherness. And so we're just on this time of discovery. I was never marinated. I'm not marinated in the policies and some of the, the huge issues that have affected our country. But I do care, and I'm just trying to learn through that. But we'll see, Pete. I just we just need to continue to try to understand how we can serve Kansas the very best moving forward.
Do you have a self-imposed timeline or deadline in your head that you think about in making a decision like this?
Not really. No, I don't, because I've always felt that, certainly there'll come a point in time when you have to make a decision. And but like I said, I've met with lots of members of the legislature. I've met with businessmen and businesswomen and farm and ag individuals throughout our state. Certainly, people in the sports world and high level leaders throughout the state. And like I said, I'm just learning a great deal, and just trying to figure out, like I said, where we can serve best. But I care deeply about families. I care deeply about, as I said, the next generation. Our foundation reflects that, and everything that we've done our entire lives has been a reflection of how we can serve people and care for people, and just come alongside of others and let their God-given abilities and talents shine, and believe in people. And that's as much as anything else. Is you get a group of people that care about one another, believe in one another, and believe in the future. And there's so many different things that we can accomplish, but it's truly a selfless type attitude that we must have in all aspects of society. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
We will. Dayton Moore on KCMO, the big event for CU in the major leagues. See you at Topgolf next Thursday. I'll be out there. Obviously, Dayton will run the whole operation, run the whole show. And just go to the website. You still have 1 day to register at CU. That's just the letter C, and then spell out U at topgolf.com, CU at topgolf.com, to join us next Thursday to support an outstanding foundation here in Kansas City, led by Dayton Moore. Dayton, it's great to have you on, my friend. Really appreciate the time, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, Pete. Have a great day. Thank you.
You as well. Dayton Moore on KCMO Talk Radio. The only thing I disagree with him on is when he said, it's a lot of fun to hit golf balls. It's only fun if you're hitting them well. But if you're not hitting them well, I'm still going to try to have fun. Because at Topgolf, I'm just going for that hole-in-one, man. 10 grand. Give Mark some money to hit a few parlays for the Royals this summer.
There you go.
I'll hook you up, Mark, okay? I'll take care of you. I'll buy John a couple Dr. Peppers as well if I hit that hole-in-one. You guys will be, don't worry. We'll cut you in on the deal. All right? It's all good. So we're going to have a good time next Thursday. Great organization, good man, good friend, and we'll see what he's thinking when it comes to running for Kansas governor as well. It's obviously a backdrop to what could be a fascinating 2026 around the state of Kansas. With not just a governor's race that will be hot and heavy. You got a lot of people already in the mix who are running. You've got Scott Schwab. You've got Jeff Collier. You have Schwab, you've got Jeff Collier, you have Charlotte O'Hara, Doug Billings, a lot of names out there that will be talked about and will be jumping into the race. You could have easily 8 people running for Kansas governor in the Republican primary next year. That is going to be crazy if it happens. And Roger Marshall's up for re-election too. And listen, I think he's going to do it again. I do. There's no reason for him not to. But maybe that race gets mildly interesting. I don't know. Just something to think about as we move into and towards 2026. Can't believe it's already happening, but here we are. So if you're going to join us out there at Topgolf, looking forward to it. Let me see. Who else is going to be out there in some of the bays? I got a list here of people. Abby Eden, Fox 4, Olympic silver medalist, Taryn Humphrey. Mike Garrett from the Chiefs, Royals Hall of Fame pitcher Dennis Leonard, and 20 other people here. I got a full list of folks. So it'll be a good time. Kathy Nelson, we'll enjoy it. Hope you'll join us as well. 913-408-7957. Speaking of sports, did you see Trump yesterday? So after he's ripping the South African president, I mean, this guy's getting more done in a day than Biden did in 2 freaking months. It's just unbelievable. So Trump rips the South African president. Then he spends the afternoon with a national championship team, and it was an all-time great Trump moment. We'll play for you coming up next on KCMO. Speaking of things happening next Thursday, not only do you have the Dayton Moore Topgolf event, in the morning, if you're a business owner in Kansas City, go over and join Centric for their AI and automation free business demonstration. You do not want to miss out on this. You can RSVP for the free event, 8 a.m. next Thursday. So you go to this in the morning, you join us at Topgolf at night, and it's a win-win. You bookend your day with some great events. But what you've got here is an opportunity to learn about how AI can make a positive impact on your business here in Kansas City. Centric's been training the technology workforce for a couple of decades here in town. They're right off State Line Road, and their AI hub is really a place for small and medium businesses to give your team a secure, easy-to-use platform to get started with AI. You don't have to be a power user. It's just about making AI accessible for everybody on your team, and it's a great way to start small, see some quick wins, and grow from there. It's not about buying some massive AI package that you can't afford, but utilizing it and getting involved in your business is critical today for success in 2025 and beyond. So go to the free AI and automation for business demonstration next Thursday morning, May 29th, 8 a.m., but you got to RSVP. Centric.com/AI. That's CENTRIQ.com/AI.
Call Mundo 913-408-7957. Now on 95.7 FM.
Trump just had himself a day yesterday. I mean, he's not taking any crap from the South African president. That was on display. CNN was very upset by that, by the way. Their headline yesterday read, "World leaders have a huge new problem. Trump's Oval Office smackdowns." Yeah, get used to it because America's back, baby, okay? I mean, this day and age of just following the rest of the world, not happening anymore. So, yes, those smackdowns will continue. That's what a lot of us voted for. So he gets done with that, and then he hosts the Florida Gators after they won the NCAA tournament this past March. And, there were some classic Trump moments. Remember, that's now his home state. Not that Trump's a big Gators fan. He probably couldn't pick Gainesville out on the map until maybe 5 minutes ago, which is fine. I mean, he's a New York City guy, but he is now obviously a Florida resident. So it was quite a showing because Florida is now, of course, the hub of the Republican Party. Trump, DeSantis, Byron Donalds was there. He's running for governor. Pam Bondi, his AG, she's a Floridian, so she was there as well. It was a big showing yesterday. Florida Gators there to celebrate their national championship, and Trump just doing his thing.
Boy, oh boy, these are good-looking guys. And they're definitely tall. One of my guys said downstairs, he's a big guy, he said, "These are the tallest human beings I've ever seen." I have a son who's 6'9", but 6'9's not. I now see. He always says, "Dad, I'm not that tall compared to some of these guys," and now I understand what he's talking about.
That was just classic. That is vintage Trump right there, isn't it? That was outstanding.
Florida has a guy who didn't really play this year. I think he's like 7'8" or something like that.
Oliver Roux.
Yeah,
it's Rioux. So I'm assuming it's pronounced Roux.
I think he was a freshman this year.
Yeah, he's 7'9".
7'9".
Canadian. Guinness World Records declared him the tallest teenager in the world in 2021. He measured 7'5" at the age of 15 years old.
I was looking for him the whole tournament, and I was like, how can I not find this guy? He's 7'9", but he's on the end of the bench.
Yeah, I know. I saw that too. I was like, gosh, where's this big dude I keep hearing about? And yeah, I'm not watching a lot of Florida Gator basketball, but I was looking for him as well. So he's there, 7'9", didn't really play, but he is the tallest teenager in world history in 2021, measured at 7'5" at the age of 15.
A foot taller than Barron.
Yeah, yes, a foot. And I didn't know Barron was up to 6'9". I thought he was like 6'6", maybe 6'7" on a good. Well, he probably is. Trump probably exaggerated by 2 inches. Let's be honest. He's probably 6'7". Either way, it's like I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Barron's 6'9". Trump's like staring straight up at the guy. What is Trump? 6'3"? That's what he says. I don't know what he is, but he says he's 6'3". So I'm like, man, these guys are huge. And just classic Trump. That's what I say to Mark and John every morning when they walk in, by the way.
Boy, oh boy, these are good-looking guys.
Yeah, that's all right. These guys walk into the studio, and I'm like, man, we got a good-looking team here. Good-looking guys. Good-looking guys. We don't exactly dress for success all the time, but you know what? When you look this good, you don't need to. Mark looks great in the KU hoodie. John in the Chiefs hoodie.
Thank you.
That's always been my role on the team, to bring down the average.
Oh, my goodness. The big, beautiful bill passing this morning in the early morning hours. So what do we make of it? Where does it go from here? We'll talk about it next.
Boy, oh boy, these are good-looking guys.
The big, beautiful bill cleared a big hurdle right before we got on the air, like right shy of 6 a.m. this morning. The big, beautiful bill ended up passing the House of Representatives 215 to 214. So this is the bill that extends the president's 2017 tax cuts, which was a massive tax cut for corporations, and no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, also in there. It creates a $1,000 savings account for babies when they're born that then, they can track and use when they get older and retire. I'd like to see the details on that, but you get the point. It has passed. Now it goes to the Senate. We had Mark Alford on, Missouri congressman from the 4th Congressional District, right after this broke at 6:30 this morning. And I asked him about what's next when it comes to this thing going to the Senate, because, of course, it's got to pass the Senate. It's very likely the Senate will pass its own version of this and send it back to the House. Here's what Mark Alford said on that front.
Look, I had a little meeting with Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, night before last, and he thinks that the Senate version may actually be a little bit more conservative than the House version. We are adding defense dollars to this because we've got to catch up to what the communist Chinese are doing. We've got to rebuild our military. And so they may have a few more dollars in defense. I don't know exactly how it might be more conservative than we have produced, but I'm here to tell you the Senate's going to get this done. There's momentum there as well. There is a willingness to make sure that we get this done for the American people. We have got to make sure that we maintain the majority in the House and, of course, the Senate this next go around in the midterms. If we don't do that, if we fail, then we failed the American people. The Democrats gain control of the gavels, and it will all be about impeachment of President Donald J. Trump.
Well, he's right about that. If Democrats, when they win back if they win back the House, not when. Although, let's be honest, Republicans don't have a big majority, and typically when you're the party in power in Washington, D.C., your party has a tough time hanging on in the next midterms. That's just what history would suggest. But if they didn't pass this bill and if they don't get this thing done, yeah, it will be a, politically speaking, bloodbath in 2026 if taxes go up and they can't keep some of their promises. One of the big sticking points in this bill over the last couple of days with many of the conservatives in the House was the fact that the work requirements for Medicaid and the work requirements for food stamps were being delayed until 2029. After Trump's done. I mean, that never made any sense to me. Get the work requirements for able-bodied adults who do not have any children. Get those work requirements in immediately. I would have held out on that too if I was a member of Congress. So they got that up to 2026. So now starting in 2026, there will be stricter work requirements for able-bodied adults without dependents for some of these government programs. And I asked Mark Alford why it was even the case that this thing was being pushed out to 2029 instead of starting basically immediately in 2026. And here's what the Missouri congressman said.
I asked that, and the leadership said, well, the governors need time to get their processes in place. And I'm like, come on now, that's BS. There was some other reason they weren't telling us, but they gave in. I talked to Speaker Mike Johnson about this and others. Look, the same thing with the SNAP program, food stamp program. You know, if you're able-bodied and you're not out looking for a job and you don't have dependents, you shouldn't be on a food supplement program from the federal government. You should be out working. And we're going to make sure that those people who truly need SNAP assistance and those who truly need Medicaid are going to get it. But we've got to preserve these programs, and the way we do it is getting rid of the waste, abuse, and fraud. The Democrats, the left, the progressive woke side of our nation have been lying to the American people through this whole process that we are cutting Medicaid. We are not cutting Medicaid.
Yeah, unless you want a bunch of people who abuse the system to remain on Medicaid, which nobody should want, then there is no cut to Medicaid. There is no cut to food stamps. It's just getting people off of them who should not be on them to begin with. I had a friend who lost his job a couple of years ago. And he was temporarily on food stamps in another state, not around here in the Southeast. And he got a job and he got back into his flow of work. And he was a single, able-bodied adult. I was going to say male adult, but I figured saying he kind of gave that away. He, him, you know. And he said he would call him up and be like, guys, you're still sending me food stamps. Like, I don't need them anymore. I'm good. And they basically would be like, no, don't worry about it. You just do your thing. It's all, don't worry. He would call multiple times like, I don't need these anymore. I don't want them anymore. He was working. And they were just like, oh, I don't know what to tell you. They were basically saying to him, stop calling us, keep taking them. And, they'll run out when they run out kind of a thing, John.
But do please take our call in 5 years when we accuse you of receiving benefits that you're not eligible for.
Well, that's a good point as
That'll
well.
be coming around.
That's the biggest reason, too. He was like, I got to get off this thing because they will come a day when they come back and say, hey, by the way, and they won't care that you called them half a dozen times. They won't give a rip about that.
Who did you talk to?
Yeah, I talked to Bob, right? It's like, what is this, Office Space? So there was a lot of that going on. And I'm not saying it all gets cleaned up on day one, but man, we got to make sure because, my buddy wants to work and he's got a great career and I'm happy for him. But there's a lot of people who will be like, you know what? If they want to keep my gravy train going, I ain't going to stop them. I'll keep this thing riding. And then we say, boy, why is the labor force so tight? Well, when you're just pumping people up on government programs, what do you think happens? Right? And then they'll be like, that's why we got to just flood the borders because we need workers in the country. That's what we need. It's like, no, you guys have created this system. You've created a frothy welfare state. Yes, we are a generous country with a safety net, but we are so far beyond that with some of these programs. It's how you end up $36 trillion in debt. 913-408-7957. That's our text line and the studio line on KCMO. Let's go to the Northland. Wes, hello. Go ahead, my man.
Yeah, Pete, no one has said this. I Googled it, but I had to call the source to make sure. Does the big, beautiful bill include no taxes on Social Security?
It does not. That did not make the bill.
Oh, man. Oh, geez. I'm really disappointed. I had already calculated how much they were putting in my pocket. Shouldn't have counted my chickens, I guess, before they hatched. Oh, man.
Yeah, that one didn't. That one, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime did make it, but the no tax on Social Security does not appear to be a part of the plan.
Oh, man. Well, they need to pass that as a standalone bill then and make the Democrats vote on it.
Yeah.
I would think that they would get some Democrat votes, hopefully in the Senate too. So, well, darn. I'll go take a cold shower now, I guess.
Yeah, right? That's right. All right, Wes. Thanks, buddy. Okay. If we need a call screener, we'll call you up. You can apply for the job.
Thanks, man. Bye.
Appreciate you. There you go. Leland is in Pleasant Hill. Hey, Leland, good morning.
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, my man. What's happening?
Well, I just heard you talking about your friend that had got on food stamps and trying to get off. My daughter and her husband were on it. They had a son that was born as disabled. They had to have help with the food for a while. But when they got to where they could get off of it, I mean, they had a dickens of a time getting off. It was harder to get off of it than it was get on.
Yeah, they want to make sure that, once you get on that government teat, you don't get off, man. There's obviously there's half the country that likes the idea of more people being very reliant and getting comfortable with the government helping them out even during times when they don't need it, right?
Then we got control of you.
Yes.
Another thing I'd like to say, well, you're just talking to the guy about Social Security. We've paid taxes on that money once. Why should we have to pay taxes on it again?
I agree. It's a completely broken system.
Yep. Well, we can thank the Democrats for being taxed on it.
No.
Remember, it was Clinton that put it on there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Leland. I appreciate you, man.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
I mean, listen, the system's totally broken. and it has been for a long time. Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. Doesn't mean that, listen, if you are someone who is on it or close to being on it, it does not mean that you are somebody who should not say, hey, I'm going to get mine. This is my money. Yes, I understand it's technically, theoretically your money, but it's really not because they're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and they've been doing that for decades anyway. And from what I understand, just from reading some of the quotes from different members of Congress, the no tax on Social Security would have just blown out the budget, and they couldn't make it work mathematically. I think because they didn't cut enough in the bill. But that's one of the things that, like Thomas Massey out of Kentucky noted. He basically put up a meme that alleged MAGA loves talking about no more omnibus bills, but technically this is an omnibus bill. But as Mark Alford said this morning about this, hey, you know what? We had to get this done. It's an absolute step in the right direction. And it's not perfect, but we are not going to let perfect be the enemy of good. 913-408-7957. Plenty of time for you as we take you till 10 o'clock when Kevin Keatsman, uncanceled, joins us on KCMO Talk Radio. I'll give you something else that is in the bill coming up next. Now, as you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, hopefully it's not you, but man, I got a plumbing problem. What do I do? The Plumbing Pro in Kansas City is the place to go. They're locally owned. They have been since 1978. We're going to check off all the boxes that you look for in a plumber: reliability, professionalism, quality workmanship, transparency, and customer service. That's what the Plumbing Pro is all about. That has been their mission for going on 50 years in Kansas City, providing the best quality plumbing service at a reasonable cost to homeowners and businesses all over town. And when you talk to Steve, the owner, I mean, he'll tell you that any success they've enjoyed is really the result of how they've treated people along the way. So when you need a plumber, you really need the Plumbing Pro. That's theplumbingpro.com. Make sure you fit in the for the Plumbing Pro, because some people try to knock them off and rip them off. And the reality is some people try no one better. Theplumbingpro.com. That's the best way to get a hold of them. They've always been there for this town, and they're always the ones who are going to give you the best deal in town. Theplumbingpro.com.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Some of the things in the Build Back Better bill that helps small businesses that should be getting more attention. The bill raises the small business tax deduction from 20 to 23%, a provision that Job Creators Network has been the loudest voice in favor of. This deduction is claimed by 26 million small businesses every year and will result in significant savings for Main Street businesses, the backbone of the American economy. Also, the legislation reinstates 100% immediate expensing for capital investments, allowing small businesses to immediately deduct the full cost of equipment and property, encouraging reinvestment, expansion, and modernization that will boost productivity and help small businesses, manufacturers, and contractors. So those are just two of the big wins in the Build Back Better, or I should say the big, beautiful bill. Wasn't Build Back Better one of Biden's dumb bills or Obama's dumb bills? Didn't mean to insult the press, switching up the name of his bill to one of the Obama-Biden bills. Sorry about that.
Come on, man.
But you get the point. This passed the House this morning. Now it goes over to the Senate. And Mark Alford said that the House wants to see this bill signed by the president on July 4th, Independence Day. 913-408-7957. John is in Paola. John, you're on KCMO. Go ahead, my friend.
Morning, Pete. I got a question. I don't know if I'm the only one thinking it, but this big, bold, beautiful bill, I remember when Biden tried to pass a big bill, and all of us on the right were screaming, single line item votes, single line item votes.
You're right.
Shouldn't we have done the same thing? Because it's the only way to figure out how our representatives truly vote on all this stuff.
I agree. That is what many, or a handful on the right who didn't vote for the bill, like Thomas Massie in Kentucky, that's what they're saying. Republicans like to rail against omnibus bills, and this is by definition an omnibus bill. I asked Mark Alford about that this morning, and he basically said, to get this thing done, we didn't have time to basically do a bunch of smaller bills. That's what he said. You can do with that information what you want. But I agree. I mean, just from a standpoint of where Republicans are when they're not in power versus where they are when they're in power, there is something to be said for the fact that they talk a big game on some of this stuff and then they don't come through with it.
Yeah, come election time, it's confusing as heck to say, one side says, oh, they voted against this and this for veterans. Well, yeah, they voted against it because you wanted to give illegal immigrants $20,000 and free cell phones and hotels.
Yes.
And
yes.
we don't want that. So it's so confusing that, I don't know, maybe they need to work a little longer and take a little less vacation and spend more time voting on bills.
Well, God forbid they work more than 2 or 3 days a week, although they did work through the night this time around, so I'll give them that much. Thank you, John.
Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. Both sides do that. Like, Republicans will say coming up in the midterms, whoever runs against Sharice Davids, might say, hey, Sharice Davids voted against no tax on tips because that's obviously in the bill. But, there were other reasons I'm sure she voted against it. Steve and Merriam, go ahead, Steve.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm fine, Steve. Go ahead.
I've got a question in your answer regarding the Social Security. And, I don't know technically what was passed early in the morning. But, my understanding was it wasn't addressed because it was not possible to address that issue and stay under a reconciliation bill. It wasn't like an allowable issue. It wasn't that as much as from a budget standpoint. But I did hear that they had found a bit of a loophole where they changed like a deduction from $2,000 to $6,000 that made it to a point that if you were on Social Security earning under $75,000 a year, it worked out being about the same equivalent as not having, as if they had been able to pass something. So I don't fully understand the extent that Social Security was addressed. It feels like it was addressed.
Here's what I saw.
Allowable.
I'll share with you what I saw this morning. And, it was a 400-page bill that obviously got passed 3.5 hours ago. So we're doing a lot of this on the fly. But I did see a story this morning from the Motley Fool. That's a website I like for stock information, market information. And they wrote this morning that while no tax on Social Security did not make the cut, there's another major tax break included for seniors that was not expected, and it could be more lucrative for some Americans. Here's what they write here. Social Security benefits can still be taxable. As mentioned, Social Security benefits can still be considered taxable income under the proposed bill. Under current law, as much as 85% of Social Security income can be taxable depending on income. Specifically, Social Security taxation depends on your combined income, which consists of your adjusted gross income, any non-taxable interest income, and half of Social Security benefits. They go on to say, under Trump's proposal, there's a $4,000 additional standard deduction available for senior citizens, 65 and older. That is per person. So a married couple filing jointly would get an $8,000 boost to their standard deduction. This tax break is intended for low to moderate income retirees and would start to phase out at modified adjusted gross income levels above $75,000 for an individual or $150,000 for married couples. So there is an additional standard deduction available for senior citizens at a certain income bracket, a lower income bracket. That could work out better for some people. But there will not be a no tax on Social Security. The caller of the day on the biggest story of the day coming up right after the news on KCMO Talk Radio.
It's Mundo in the Morning. Now on FM at 95.7. Set a preset on your radio. KCMO Talk Radio.
Sometimes as I'm sitting there the night before getting ready for the next morning's show, I'm like, man, I just don't feel like we have that major topic today. What's it going to look like? And just for the record, sports radio goes through this from like April through about August 15th, August 30th. So I once heard Colin Cowherd, national sports talk radio host, say that he only would want to do news talk radio the day before, the day of, and the day after an election. And I respect Colin. I actually think he's really good when it comes to sports talk. But I'm like, man, are you kidding me? In news and in politics and getting to do what we do every day, sure, every day is not the greatest news day in the history of mankind. But you get a lot more robust news. And you know that for the most part in sports, mid-April through the end of August, you are just grasping at straws. How many times can you break down, boy, the Royals, Giants, El Salvi, everything else, like, wish they pulled the starting pitcher in the sixth inning with 2 out. How long can you do that for when you're doing a multi-hour show? I mean, even Keatsman, that's why he's here now with KCMO kicking butt. It's like, unless you've got an NBA or an NHL playoff team in your town, because if you're not in an NBA, NHL playoff town, no one cares. Man, you are just really struggling for about 5 months. So I've always disagreed with him on that assessment. But that being said, we walk in this morning, 2 minutes before we get on the air, the big, beautiful bill passes the House 215 to 214. And the one part of the bill, I mean, there's a lot of parts of the bill that I'm sure I won't like. It's a 400-page bill. Trust me, there's plenty of junk in there that we're not going to like. But one of the parts I questioned is this $1,000 savings account that Kevin Hassett, part of Trump's economic team, talked about last night on News Nation.
So the big, beautiful bill has a lot of beautiful stuff in it that nobody's talking about, which is another one of your themes. And so one of the things I like the best is that for every baby, it's in the bill, every baby born in America, then the minute they're born, the government creates a $1,000 account, puts it into the stock market for them so that they've got it when they retire. And then they get to look at that account on their iPhone or their phone for the rest of their lives and see what America is doing for them. And I think that kind of bill is exactly what we need right now. And we don't need, like, we've extended the tax cuts, which created all this manufacturing in the U.S., but we focused really on the middle class in this bill. And that's why it's going to probably pass tonight or early in the morning. And that's my intel from the meeting with the president today.
That was Kevin Hassett last night. I just don't like that part of the bill. It's minor, relatively speaking. I also don't like the way it's framed of this is what America is doing for you. It's like kind of Bernie Sanders language. We've got a new government program and this is America taking care of you. No, we want Americans to take care of themselves. We want parents to take care of their kids. That's what we want. Don't mask this new government program. That's what we want. As America taking care of us. Basically, every time America tries to take care of us, they spend more money than they should and they fail at it. But this plan, it has some potential on paper. $1,000 set aside for every baby born, and you can access the money. I don't know exactly when. We don't have the details on when, but at some point when you're retired. So what would this cost? About $3.5 billion a year. We're averaging about 3.5 million babies being born every year. So multiply that by 1,000, you get $3.5 billion. Not a ton of money. It's just not. We spent $1.4 trillion on Social Security last year. So this is not a lot of money. And if it encourages people to actually see how the stock market and investments work for them and how compound interest is an amazing tool over time, then this could be a win. If you were to take $1,000, not touch it, put it in an S&P 500 index fund, you will have $500,000 at 65 years old. That's a 10% average annual return over 65 years. You don't touch it till you're 65. $1,000 becomes $2,000 by the time the child's 7. It becomes $4,000 by the time they're 14. But it goes to show you compound interest is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And if this is a way to teach people the value of compound interest, I'm here for it. But I don't love the idea of just, hey, sure, here's $1,000 because you had a kid. People are going to abuse that left and right. And that conversation led to our caller of the day on KCMO.
It's the Mundo in the Morning Caller of the Day on KCMO Talk Radio. Now on FM at 95.7.
913-408-7957, our text line and our studio line on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Victor's in Parkville. Go ahead, Victor. You're on KCMO. Good morning.
Good morning, Pete. You touched on it. This is the first step in saving/phasing out Social Security. Because if they're going to have this amount of money, they're not going to be wanting Social Security. This will also encourage people to invest as they get older, so they're not going to be needing Social Security. The less people you have in Social Security, the more you have involved in the private sector, and that'll boost the economy. I mean, it's what, a couple $1 billion or $1 billion a year nowadays? They piss that away on a weekend.
They do.
This is nothing for the federal government.
Hey, listen, I will, if you're right about this, Victor, and if this is about ultimately phasing out Social Security, which, to your point, Social Security cost and paid out $1.4 trillion in benefits in fiscal year 23. We're talking about $3 billion on average. You know, if 3 million babies are born, you give them each $1,000, that's $3 billion a year. That is nothing. If this is about the larger picture and maybe one day phasing it out for newborn babies, I'm all in. I want to hear that, though, from the president. I want to hear that.
Well, didn't it actually start out at one point where the money was actually put in a quote unquote lock box invested in the United States until they finally took the money and put it into the general fund because they wanted to spend it?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the way it used to work. And if it still worked that way, we wouldn't be in this mess now, would we?
Well, I still think we might be because we have not had replacement rate populations in this country that we need. But either way, he has a very good point. The problem is, you know, and I know there's going to be a time when Democrats are back in charge of the country, and they are not going to go for this, like, create a fund when you're born to replace Social Security, because they have hoodwinked their voters into this idea that Social Security is the best program known to mankind. And if you want to get rid of it, or you want to alter it, or you want to tweak it, you're throwing grandma off the cliff. We got close early in the first George W. term, I want to say it was 0203, to basically making Social Security much more of a privatized system. But it failed at the last minute. And for 20 plus years since then, we have not been able to do anything about it as we approach $40 trillion in debt. So that's where we're at as we roll through the morning. Big, beautiful bill passing the House. It now goes on to the Senate side. And as Mark Alford said this morning on KCMO, he believes their bill is going to have some tweaks, will be more conservative, and then it comes back over to the House. Hoping it gets to President Trump's desk by Independence Day. That is the goal that Mark Alford alluded to this morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We'll wrap up the show with you at 913-408-7957. And Jake Tapper's making all the rounds in the media landscape with this new book about former President Joe Biden. But he said something yesterday that, to me, was as insulting as it gets about the former president of the United States. We'll play the audio to wrap up the show on KCMO.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Pete Mundo.
Learning more about the big, beautiful bill, which passed the House this morning, now goes to the Senate side.
Pass it to see what's in it.
I know. Hey, I trust me. I'm not reading this 400-page monster, okay? I mean, I'll try to find some tidbits on it to share with you, but 400 pages, my gosh. They can't make anything easy, even when Republicans are in charge. So, but listen, there'll be a lot of coverage on it today into tomorrow morning, and we'll be back at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Quentin Lucas did not join us this morning, the mayor of Kansas City. He will be on at 8 a.m. tomorrow. He is traveling back today from Qatar, where he was for the week, because they hosted the last World Cup. So they brought in a bunch of mayors who are hosting World Cups or are in World Cup cities next year, and Mayor Lucas was one of those. So speaking of the bill, talk about rolling back and making sure work requirements are in place so people are not milking things like Medicaid, things like food stamps. Debbie is on KCMO. Hey, Debbie, good morning.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Debbie. What's happening?
Okay, I just had a completely different experience when I went through a divorce. It's about a decade ago. I had two children. One is an extremely disabled child, still disabled. And to get food stamps, I had to go every 6 months with a current copy of my checking account to prove to them that, yes, in fact, I was broke and qualified for food stamps. So it's not simple food stamps. They have a quota, or because I wasn't an illegal alien, so I had to prove it. But not everybody just gets food stamps. I had to jump through hoops to get it for my children when we needed it.
Yeah. And listen, that's the program is intended for people like you in that very difficult position. That's what it's intended for, right?
Yeah. But
go ahead.
No, but I had to go in, which was such a pain. And there were Spanish-speaking people in the office when I was there. And I always wondered why they were even there. But yes, I had to prove. So it just is so weird when I hear all these people say, oh, it's no big deal. You just get on food stamps. And we still qualified. I just finally quit going because it was just too much of a pain to go through.
Well, maybe that's also, listen, every state has its own set of rules and regulations on that stuff too. But listen, I just think it's one of those deals where, as I shared earlier with my buddy who was on it, I don't know how hard it was for him to get on it, but I know when he wanted to get off of it was really difficult to get off it, John.
Well, to Debbie's point, these programs are intended for certain people, and yet they make it most difficult for those people to access it, and it's worth finding out, or to get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the many problems that these programs have. So we'll wrap up the show with this piece of audio. Jake Tapper making the rounds, of course, promoting his big book. Should I call it a big, beautiful book?
Why not?
Original Sin is the book written with Alex Thompson from Axios. And this is the book about basically what a disaster Joe Biden was during his time in office from a mental standpoint in particular and a physical standpoint. He just was not up to the job. And anybody with two eyes, a half-functioning brain, and ears knew that. But
that's me. Like, people go, "Did you go see Apollo 13?" I'm like, "No, I lived it." I mean, I wasn't in the program, but I did see it, so I don't need to go. So I probably won't read this book. We all saw it.
Yeah, we did. A little fresh in our minds, burnt into our memories. But he's making all the media rounds. Now, it's interesting that I see Jake Tapper going on different shows of people that like totally disagree with him, like Megyn Kelly. But hey, he's a smart promoter. I got to give him that. He is promoting it everywhere he possibly can. And he's taken some shots in the process as well. So this latest clip, he tells Sam Harris that Biden's aides struggled to detect his decline. Why? Because basically he was always a moron.
That during this era when the non-functioning Biden would rear its head, 2019, 2020, and then he would show up more and more, non-functioning Biden, that they weren't sure what was going on because A, he was old, and that just happens with older people. They lose a beat. B, he was always kind of prone to some of this behavior, even when he...
What happened? It just stopped in the middle of the The clip just went away on me. Yeah, go ahead. Start it over. See if it works on your
that
end.
during this era when the non-functioning Biden would rear its head, 2019, 2020, and then he would show up more and more, non-functioning Biden, that they weren't sure what was going on because A, he was old, and that just happens with older people. They lose a beat. B, he was always kind of prone to some of this behavior, even when he was in fighting form, long-winded, pointless stories, and forgetting names and such, gaffes, lies, all those things.
Oh my goodness.
So that, again, that doesn't exculpatory. It's not exculpatory, but it is by way of understanding like the complication of trying to figure out, wait, what exactly is going on here with this guy?
Yeah.
Think about this. What Jake Tapper just said there is that basically Joe Biden has always been an idiot, so they couldn't tell. They couldn't tell when he totally went off the deep end because basically the guy's always been a fool. I mean, that is the direct interpretation of what Jake Tapper just said.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely. That's what I heard.
All right. His staff and the people closest to him didn't know how bad it was. States. Oh my gosh, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up.
That's why he was the 5th favorite in the Democratic primary till he won South Carolina. And somehow he, I don't know, jumped over everybody.
Yes, he was not doing well until he got that lift from the guy, I'm blanking on his name, the South Carolina congressman who endorsed him before their primary, and then Biden was off to the races. The guy has never been popular, in part because he was never all that bright. And the media let him get away with gaffe after gaffe after gaffe during his entire career. But they had to beat Trump. They ran him out of the basement. COVID helped a lot, and they got their wish. But ultimately, did they really get their wish? Because we got the big guy back.
Hey, he did cut down on his plagiarism, though. Stumbling through the original thoughts.
That's right. Oh, my gosh. That is, of all the interviews I've seen Jake Tapper do, that is the most damning thing he said about Biden, because it's a nice way of saying the people closest to him always thought he was basically an idiot, so they couldn't tell how dumb and how bad he had gotten. Wow. If you missed Mark Alford's immediate reaction this morning at 6:30 to the big, beautiful bill passing, it will be up on the podcast after the show. Also, Dayton Moore joined us, and we did ask him about his interest in running for governor of Kansas. That will be up on the podcast as well after the show this morning. Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled, a great hour with him coming up next on KCMO.